on him.
We are live streaming.
And we are live.
Back here.
And it is recorded. Recording and so feel free to be on it, sure. You know, letting everyone know.
Guys,
Thank you, Jason.
I'm gonna tune in somewhere else.
Thank you, Jason.
Shop.
All right, welcome everyone to one of our last
That's us, it's delayed, yeah. It's delayed.
sorry, hold on, we're having some technical difficulties. Are you hearing that feedback, Kenna? Yeah. Oh, Jason didn't go far.
Jason.
Here we go, yeah, that's 30 seconds. Oh, is that for 30 second delay so you can do people?
Let's turn it down a bit.
Where's the shield? I want the shield.
The what?
Where's the shield?
Like a 30
We already
second.
broke it. It's like a 1 minute delay.
Here, bro.
This?
Yep.
Here we go.
That's all I have to
I'll
do.
get-
The live stream is playing as you were doing your meeting.
Okay.
It's like from here, you can't even tell. Like, there you go.
Okay,
All right. And we're back.
and we're back.
Do we have minutes to approve? Kim?
Yes, they were in the packet that was sent out.
Okay, great. Would anyone like to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you. So tonight, we don't have financials yet. So we'll be probably sending those out at a different time. And we don't have an agenda, so tonight is gonna be more casual, just kind of talking about some of the items that we feel went well this year at Independence Days and what we feel we could work on to improve for next year. So I was just gonna kind of start with, just kind of having kind of popcorn. So if you have, any sentiments, I don't know if we want to start with entertainment and have Nathan kick it off, or if we want to start with security, who would like to go first?
I can definitely kick it off.
All right, go ahead, Nathan.
So I thought it went really well. Especially despite the hiccups and everything, I felt like, I had a great team to rely on this year, and that everybody that I, have to step up in the pitch definitely helped me out, and I am very grateful to all of you, for pulling it off. So, I felt much better about it than my first year in the park. And I loved your talent show. Yeah, it's great. That was great for the community. I think we should do that, every year for some portion. If it happens to be like a 2-day 4th of July thing rather than a 3-day festival, because we would go to that, right? If 4th of July fell on a Wednesday or something. Well, we have 5 more years of weekdays.
Yeah, but if it fell on a Wednesday, we'd still have Monday off work, so we'd probably still do
Right.
3 days.
Well, regardless, if we do, I would love to not see the talent show go away no matter what, whether that means front loading, the actual 4th of July, instead of having, a DJ and kids activities during the day, we could make it talent show centered, however we have to do it. I really, despite my apprehension about competitive environments in music, just my personal feelings, I thought you did a really great job of supporting everybody, and the community supported it, and it felt, I think, pretty welcoming to everybody. And I like the stars right here. Yeah, that's right. So I loved how everything went. The things I think could improve, as people trickle in, not everybody wants to sit in the beating hot sun for the first 5 hours of the day. So whether that's we open later or make the beginning of the day even a stronger community feel, and as much as it pains me, of course, as a musician, to say, maybe even less bands in the early part of the day. I think we could save even incrementally as little as we pay the opening bands, if we saved that. Or rerouted that part of the entertainment budget to more roaming performers that can just walk around and engage people, whether that's jugglers, stilt walkers, whether we get the March 4th marching band, or they play the country fair every year, and that is the weekend after 4th of July. So if there's a way that we could snag them, and they could be marching through the crowd, they could be in the parade, they could, and they have stilt walkers and
It's like a
crazy
circus.
furry stuff, the kids freak out and they're wonderful. We would be the gig on the way for them to play the country fair, and they're the country fair house band.
Yeah.
They wake everybody up, starting with the employees before the festival, and they put everybody to bed.
Yeah, I think
at night.
that was some of my notes as well, is that I don't think we needed to pay a DJ for those daytime. I think that a playlist would have been sufficient, so that was.
The 4th of July playlist is pretty bumping, and I can expand it. It would include more.
That DJ was good, man.
He was, but to almost like 5 people, so I don't know.
On that stage.
But it was good to know, it was good. Mhm.
Yeah, I admire his, tenacity and dedication.
You wouldn't have not known he was playing the 5. You would have thought he was playing the 5,000.
Mhm.
It's like, oh,
His heart was in it, and I appreciate that very much. He loved it so much that he didn't want to get off the stage, which affected my band. Grossly, we operated without a sound check and difficult stage sound, and our set was 25% shorter than it probably should have been, and we had to front load the set with a jam because nobody was ready. So personally, that was a little defeating, because that's the second year in a row that my band that works really hard to try to sound good for the community has suffered, because of somebody just not getting off the stage in time, or, listening to
I think
listening
that,
to the quote unquote stage manager, which is me, which brings me to my next point is I would love to have at least one security person posted, or a city rep, somebody that is like the hammer, the gavel, near the stage.
Mm.
And also just from a security standpoint, like we can see from there the whole fanned out event, we got some people, nothing bad happened, so that's not what's motivating my query. I just thought strategically for security, it'd be a really great spot to post somebody kind of
there was
side
the
stage
one
or
girl that got.
roaming behind and in front of the stage kind of.
anything else for the talent show or entertainment they want to add?
Starting earlier for the talent show, if that's possible. I think a lot of the kids were getting super tired, so kind of started dissipating towards as it got darker and colder. I think that we started out earlier, that's perfect.
I think we also talked about how to do the
Prizes.
the prizes a
Yeah.
little differently to
Doing
retain
them
the
all at the
audience.
end, yeah.
Mhm.
And the only reason that I started doing those sooner is because to make it go quicker.
Yeah.
Because it was going so, it was gonna be much later. We would have been there another 40 minutes, I think. 40
Right.
minutes at least. When people were getting food.
I think we also talked about having
Prizes.
prizes for the. I don't wanna say
Lisa's so sweet. She's
the
Everybody,
unwinners.
especially for the younger kids.
Yeah, no, it's a good.
and they really enjoyed, walking away with something, it's very unique. Not everybody has a picture unless you got a great catch when whoever's launching them.
Yeah, some people may not know, but there was one of the actual only child that didn't win, because we had 3 opportunities to win, and she was 4th place. And so she actually left the stage crying and left the area crying. And so Lisa, as sweet as she is, went and got all of the event tees that we were going to hand out the next day, and gave all of the people who didn't win kind of consolation prizes.
Yeah.
So
That was great.
yes, I think it was really
They
good. That would
could
be doing that, so.
We could switch that up. I mean, t-shirts are cheap and cool and unique. That's kind of what we're
talent show one.
we had those trades. Trophy, but I still swear that someone.
Yeah, it's not in the end.
We had trophies.
It's not.
Yeah. Remember those?
All right, conversation for another time.
But yeah, starting earlier,
Last.
prizes. And I think it went fantastic. I couldn't have asked for a better group. It was the best group of, 5 years that I've been doing that show. 4 years. We didn't have one band. That was crazy. So that,
Kind of.
well, sort of, yeah, kind of.
But nobody got up there, right?
Yeah, there wasn't a full drum set and stuff, and I would have liked to have seen that. But yeah, the trailer park family was closest thing to it, and the kid. Yeah, but it was great. I enjoyed it. Thank you for letting me do that. And I still get people seeing me at the store, saying how much they want it. And enjoyed it. Random people on the street.
Thanks. Good to know. Andrea, do you want to give us some feedback about the kids' space in the kids' tent?
I think things went really well. We kind of adapted. There was a little bit of miscommunication, I feel like, because we had a plan and then we'd been asked to kind of fill a gap for entertainment on hometown days, and then that,
Competed with the sound.
yes.
Right.
So, I mean, along the lines of entertainment earlier in the day, I would love to engage the community, because we had planned like a line dancing lesson and things like that, where we were gonna use the music and pull people in from the crowd. So maybe we could be part of that.
Yeah.
But it turned out well, because the activities we had planned actually, I think, were more engaging for the kids than just the grab and go things, which we had originally planned. And we ended up doing that over the course of the 3 days, and I think everyone really loved that. So moving forward next year, I think more hands-on activities would be better.
Yeah.
But other than that,
I saw a lot of kids over there having fun with
oh
their
my gosh,
lights
they
on, their
loved the water
back
balloon,
races,
yeah,
their
all of
burgers,
that.
yeah.
That was, yeah, that was a blast.
Yeah, I think it was really nice to have more interactive.
Yeah.
Activities, because in the past, it's just kind of been, if you want to come in color or play in the sand, it's more of like in passing, whereas this was.
Yep.
Time.
And what I saw was, that was utilized a little bit, but what really pulled in the people, and even the parents, and even some firefighters were like, we want to go against the kids, so that was fun.
Good.
And I feel like that's what we will plan in the future.
Good. Okay. Glad to hear that you loved it so much, you'll be back again.
Well, yeah.
Courtney, get that in writing fast.
No, it's in there, it's in the notes now.
And it was.
It's been recorded.
Mhm.
Yes, I don't think that's a problem, and I think we're all on the same page in terms of making it more community focused. And more family focused specifically during the day without having to have the band entertainment at the stage, so I think we're on the same page. All right, was that it for the kids on?
Yes, and then I just had a thought about prizes, because a lot of businesses were happy to give gift cards and stuff for the baskets we raffled off. So, I mean, you could maybe reach out to them and do a $3 from Jubilee, the cupcake, but that's still a cool prize to a kid as a consolation.
Oh, for the township.
For the
Oh, yes,
township, yeah.
absolutely.
For a kid. That's great.
For everybody.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for all your help this year. Okay. Karen, sponsorships.
No sponsorships. Went well. All the
Yay,
sponsors were
yes.
happy. I did get some feedback or suggestions, and I think we had talked about this anyway, but maybe sponsors should get bracelets to enter the park in general. So they got VIP bands, which they were happy about, to get a really cool area to watch the fireworks from, but fans to get into it as well. And a suggestion that higher paying sponsors have a larger presence, like larger banners on the main stage, maybe than the other ones. And there's some differentiation, like on the website and promotional materials, like maybe gold sponsor versus silver sponsor, or something to distinguish which ones are giving you like the 3,500 versus the 1,000. So some kind of, differentiation recognition there.
Got it.
Who were the sponsors?
Say who were the sponsors?
Saturday.
Oh, that's like a quiz, yeah.
Same ones that are.
And blue, and there were 12, and I feel like if I named
Pacific
some of them,
Valley.
I've missed some people.
Yeah,
But yeah, Pacific Source, Pacific Power, they're. Yeah,
I was gonna suggest, and I was gonna actually talk to Portland too about even the sponsorship for the river rhythms, or river Signage. Nobody ever hits up Marquee or Forest River or Medallion, and we did that for the Mexican Fiesta right before COVID, and they were like offering thousands.
We did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
but I would love to
Well,
know
I
who you
did,
talked
but yes,
to.
they, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, we have a list that we worked off of this year that had about, like 25 or 30 businesses within the Independence Monmouth area, since it was the first year for Independence Days. Actually having cash sponsorships, it's just a growing place. So I think if anyone has recommendations for businesses we should reach out to for next year, I think that's great. Feel free to, yeah, feel free to shoot them to us, or to Karen specifically too, so that she can add them to her outreach list. I mean, just to say how great of an event was put on, we had businesses reach out to me after the fact, asking how they can sponsor at it. So that's how you know you did a good job,
Right.
people are begging to be a part of it. So
Yeah.
good job to everyone, and good job, Karen, for managing sponsors so delicately.
A lot of the businesses want to see sponsor asks in December, January.
Yeah, earlier, way
So they
earlier.
can plan for the next year's budget to be able to donate that.
And that,
Fiscal budget.
time was not on our side this year. We
Yeah,
started, I think,
yeah,
in February or March. So yes,
Yeah.
for next year, for sure,
Mhm.
that will be something we can discuss.
Yeah, and then I think just last couple notes, I think the handoff could be, all be smoother next year, now that I know a little how, more about how it works to Lisa for vendors. And then the last piece was, oh, I was thinking a lot of my work was pre and post event, getting the sponsorship benefits and packages ready and then whatnot afterwards. And during it, everyone was running around and I was happy to help however I could, but we talked about social media posts for businesses and I was thinking, like, if I do this again next year, whoever does it, maybe they could help post, to highlight sponsors during the event. Maybe they can help more with that side of things.
And so we are missing a social media person right now, which is why I had to fill that gap a lot of
Yeah.
the time. But yes, hopefully that can be worked out a little bit better in the future. But if not, that's great option. Hopefully we'll be around next year to talk about that. You gotta throw it in every time. Was that all for sponsors?
That is, yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Ramon, volunteers.
So my main ones are at the, they have to do with the tick table. I just think, that for next year, worth highlighting, put a strong emphasis on having a bilingual, at least one bilingual volunteer at each table, because at the time where I've been able to kind of relieve people or take people breaks, I've noticed there's, more Spanish speaking, participants, and so I need to, kind of put that in the notes for the sign up sheet. Having braces for kids, because I felt like the kids were kind of, I had a couple situations where they kind of started to be like, oh, I had a couple people crying, and it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of something minor, but it'd be fun to kind of put that in there for kiddos.
What we did is gave out stickers.
Oh,
I forget what was it?
And
And had a whole bunch of stickers. And so for the kids that didn't get bracelets, she handed out stickers to them.
that's sweet.
So
yeah,
Yeah.
Stamps, she was a rock star.
And then also, maybe next year having bilingual printed materials, like with the map and such, maybe one side English or side Spanish. Would be, I mean, I think that would be a definite, and I can of course help with that. But I think that will be an important base for us to cover. And then with the naturalization ceremony, I just wanted to mention that, I mean, it's kind of like Vidal, kind of, you got to push by the talent show, like with the naturalization ceremony, Phil, even after the last week, when I'm going down to Winco or Weimar, like people still commenting, and it's kind of, it's really cool. And then so Mayor and I really want to help make that happen. That was very cool. That's it.
Very unique too. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. I think I saw it at the World Beat once. So I think that's kind of a unique thing.
Oh, yeah, it was definitely.
We've done them here in Chambers before, but I think it has more impact
Yeah.
Independence Days.
Yeah,
What
that's
else?
really cool. I was in the crowd, so it was nice to see like the community hooting and hollering and getting excited for other community members. One thing that I kind of want to see with volunteers is, you know, it kind of right there at that last ditch effort when we needed to get some more groups together. Chief did a really great one page about what the tasks would be required of that group.
Yeah.
So I foresee that being pretty important as we go forward, is having that clear understanding if there's a group or even if it's a wristband, you know, person for them to have that one pager that they get when they do sign up. So that way they're well aware of all the tasks that are required. And when to be on site, how long to be on site, how many people. I don't think it would take long to create those things, but I think that that's really important, just in making sure communication is clear in what we're expecting from that volunteer group. So.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of like the systems piece, basically kind of created from the ground up. From really being able to everything, you know, online, you know, mobile device friendly and then, you know, Chief sent out a really good doc with one focus,
Mhm.
parking and such and garbage and but it was a big learning experience for me. Really being able, I've done a lot of one day events and kind of coming into a multi-day event and also coming into it from a kind of angle where I've never actually seen it from the inside. So it was really good for me to know for next time.
I think you ran a marathon. over the course of it.
It was something.
Because every time I get hollered for, you came running, so you were running a lot, 3 days.
Good job, everyone. Shannon, I know you probably have a lot to talk about, and I also want to get your opinion a lot about the wristband aspect as
I have a
well.
list.
Okay, great.
Like I said, we need to move to online sales just for accountability purposes and ease of use. I mean, I think we still need, and Lori is looking at the possibility they have a separate checking account to do that, so we can do it. Realize we still got to work out the kinks of that, but I think we need to move to that. We still need to have some in-person sales, maybe here in this building, whether it's staff or whether it's volunteers. I think we need to have at least a physical
Yeah, I was gonna
location.
ask what that looks like then on the day of when people are wanting to get bracelets. how
Now,
to
we
get
still need to
people
have sales at the gate. We still, you still need to have sales there. Yeah, for sure. But,
Yeah.
I think we'll do a lot more pre-sales if we do the online.
How would they get their bracelet?
Well, that's what we gotta figure out, because you can either give them a QR code or whatever, and they can come to a will call,
Yeah, cool.
something like that, which means we'll have to have an additional person at the gates or whatever to check that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we've got a year to figure out how to do it. Bigger events do it, so there's gotta be a way to figure it out.
Sure.
So it's gonna,
Yeah, I voiced this to Shannon. I don't know that I would like the idea of a QR code. Totally, just because like when I get my boarding pass for the airline, I screenshot it, so that way I don't end up using all my battery on my phone. So what would prevent somebody from screenshotting their QR code to get
somebody
in
else's QR
and
code.
then
Yeah.
sending it to all their friends?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's,
I think
What if
most
they
of,
just
I think
have
most of
one?
those apps,
They
you
should
can
be-
only use it one time.
They should be.
Yeah, but-
So if you use it one time, then
Yeah.
somebody else tries to use it, the app says.
but
sorry,
so
it's been used.
only one time, so you could never go in and out of the park all day?
You get a wristband.
You get a
when do
wristband, then you
scan.
show your QR code.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay.
Yeah.
That's how the Strawberry Festival is. They had.
Yeah.
8,000 people there.
Yeah, I also would say that if we put the sales online, the dynamics of our crowd are going to shift. So by the very fact that we sell them locally only in Monmouth Independence, means the bulk of the wristbands are going to Monmouth Independence residents. Once, because people from the town are going to drive them to get them. Once we
Yeah.
go to online sales, so we're gonna shift their dynamic. Anyone from anywhere is gonna be able to hold those and buy those, and we'll take some feedback from our team, but it is gonna, I think we need to consider how that shifts the focus of who we're trying to provide the event for.
I think the wristband concept and how we're charging is gonna be a much bigger discussion, and to really plan that out, it's probably gonna be a little bit of a work session, so.
Sure.
Yeah,
We'll
Yeah.
definitely table
We'll
that,
see.
but everyone be thinking about that. I plan to do some research on other events and activities that are happening and how they do that type of QR code
Yeah.
wristband.
and Kimberly, your comment, I don't think we'll ever go away from in-person sales completely here, because there is, I mean, we have to be equitable, but at the same time, we do want to give the community, a leg up.
Well, and can you just do online sales for 2 days of the event and keep the hometown days for community sales only?
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably have to throw out 1,000 ideas, but yeah, we just gotta come up with a better, from an accountability perspective, just see if from the money alone. we gotta figure out something.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, okay, to piggyback on what Ramon said, yes, more signage, around the park in Spanish and English. What I ran into primarily at the Ash Creek, station was a lot of families coming up, speaking Spanish without a child who speaks English. And we managed to communicate, managed to get everything done, but I just think it would be so much more respectful if we had a sign that told them what was gonna happen when they got to the gate. So they're at least prepared. The Ash Creek location, by the way, was a super awesome idea. Whoever's idea that was the best place to work in the park, quite honestly.
Is that
But-
from the parking lot?
Yeah, right by the police trailer. It's right there. It's perfect. Shady, it was cool, it's wonderful, but, it was a short walk from the police trailer, but, the parking situation down there, because there wasn't any signage, so many people were coming up and not knowing they had to pay to get in there. They didn't have any money, and, Karen said she worked out a couple of saves with folks, and they had one kid that could pay or something, they'd run in and use the ATM, come back out and, with cash. But maybe either an ATM in the dog park parking area, so that before people even get out of their car, there's a place for them to get money, or somewhere in that area so that
They
can
won't,
get some money.
they won't put an ATM in.
I mean, they'll watch it, without security.
Nobody be able to see it, but
But
Yeah.
that goes back to the
suggestion
signage.
Signage that
Yeah.
says,
The signage piece
Because
is
so
more
many people
important.
walked up, had to turn around, walk all the way back, then walk all the way up to 51 and back this way. That's a long, especially, people had wagons full of garbage. But-
Well, you generally, before you could purchase your tickets and your wristbands there at
Yeah,
the gate.
At
We,
the gate.
we did shrink the gates. So we
Yeah.
had a lot of people that are used to going
Yeah.
to
And I
certain
think that's what
gates.
happened. Yeah, I think it's exactly what happened. Okay, maybe more to ATMs. I don't know how they were scattered around the park, but I had a lot of people complain that the ATMs were too far away. Designated free volunteer parking. I think we gotta find a spot. Well, first of all, I think we have to encourage volunteers to get dropped off at the park, if at all possible. If they can't, then we've gotta have a designated spot for volunteers. at the park.
so my thought
Well-
with that, since we
got rid of our buses.
Ketlin is gonna bring it up about having the CMS managing the parking lots, the days.
Yeah,
But one of my thought was in the very front of that dog park parking lot,
Mhm.
have VIP parkings
Mhm.
sectioned off, but then also have volunteer parking in that area as well. So that way the front lots, since those people are gonna be there the longest or
Yeah.
whatever happens, priority.
and the trolley's gonna be up and running by this time next year. And why can't we designate a parking lot like, at Marquee or something and have, or wherever the trolley's going and park there, hop on the trolley and come down to the park. That would too, but yeah, definitely try to keep as many cars out of the area as possible. And this is one for Jason, Courtney, and I told him about it, Wi-Fi for vendors. I don't know that it was working and I don't know that it was robust enough, so I know he's thinking about a possible different solution for that, but we need really good, robust Wi-Fi down there. One thing we talked about was a family discount, and I don't remember where we ended on that before the event, because I never offered a family discount to anybody.
It was because 5 and under were free. That was
Yeah,
essentially the
okay.
discount.
Okay. And I think I saw on social media at least one, if not two, wristband giveaways. We need to do much more of those. I think that really will energize some folks. And then, the Indie Stays Facebook page, can we maybe possibly put the feed during those 3 days on the Indie website?
What we-
The Indie Days Facebook feed on there. Yeah, because people were looking for pictures and stuff from things that were going on, and they were going to the Independence Days Facebook page, Independence City Facebook page, and not seeing it. It was all over on the Independence Days where it should have been, but nobody knew that, and so maybe if we could just put a feed somewhere so that
I
people
think,
could see
I
it.
think part of that is our communications director is also new and.
Yeah.
It was, we didn't communicate properly as in our team internally to talk about, hey, there's gonna be things posted on this page, make sure that you're sharing that to the city page. So I think there'll be more awareness
Okay.
around next year that this is gonna be where Independence Day things are posted. The city should maybe share once or twice throughout that weekend. So that way people are alerted that things are being posted, but it's on a different page.
Yeah.
Because the fact that it was silent, I understand that might have caused some confusion.
Mhm.
So.
Okay. Well, otherwise, wristbands were easy peasy. $5, I can even do that math. Sold a lot though, at the gates, a lot.
Yes, yeah, we went through quite a bit. Thank you. Chief, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Nope.
Okay. Lisa, vendors?
Yeah, a lot of my stuff that I wrote down has already been addressed. So for me, it would be more something we talk about every year, but more signage, letting people know about the event ahead of time. So we've often talked about a banner at the south side of town, the north side of town, the east side of town, across the street. I got a lot of feedback that no one knew when it was, what the dates were this year, where to get wristbands, that kind of things. And people drive that I drive it several times a day sometimes.
Yeah, I know
So-
Aaron raised issues with that banners on 51.
And there's some issues there, but we have a lot more reader boards in town now.
Is it farm equipment that's the problem for having banners out there?
Wind
Oh, okay.
wind pulls on power poles too much.
Mhm.
Need to have our designated banner poles.
Right.
I'd be happy to talk to, Lion Lodge, my landlord's the one who built it, there, about,
Putting something there,
I just play along the brick wall. As long as we can bypass this.
at least people will see the intersection.
Yeah, or whatever.
We've done that.
Signage.
On the railings there.
Yeah, we
Just
should
put it
drop
right
over the railings.
next
Oh,
to the
yeah.
intersection.
Yeah.
And now the railing's gone, so it makes it a little more difficult to gain, so we could still hang off the buildings.
And they have approved city events before, so I don't think getting that permission would be difficult.
Yeah. I could say this.
Some other suggestions for getting the word out, I think, used to put postcards in the mail to residents or put something in the water bill. And that's also to help get the word out to our local community first.
To be a vendor.
Well,
about the
just in general, but I mean, vendors also, once the buzz starts going around, a lot of them are local and that's how they find out.
We used to have the little postcard things with the schedule and the date on it, and it was amazing how many of those would actually disappear.
Yeah, we would put them around at local businesses, high school pharmacy.
What is what's the time period that who's who and Independence Monmouth comes out in the chamber? Is that a chamber event like in March or something like that? Maybe get an ad in that, and that thing advertising the Independence Days.
In the IO? Comes out.
Yeah, I was one, or Chamber's the one that does it. I want to say.
No.
No, it's
I think
like
I think it's
a
a-
whole county
Yeah.
that get put out, and I want to say it's at the beginning of the year. And so maybe we can get ourselves on the map.
But the chamber would push stuff out on social media too.
Well, and it was out on social media, I would say, pretty thorough.
Yeah.
The hard part is we don't know the answers to those scheduling questions
Yeah.
so far in advance for the things you guys are talking about, right?
Yeah.
We're figuring out scheduling stuff days before.
Days.
Yeah. Block this time off.
But yeah, as long as we know the dates and the basic timeframes. I think
And
there's
where to
enough
get
basic info,
wristbands.
Yeah, that we would probably send out in advance this year.
But live
Yeah.
music, whatever, parade, talent show.
Maybe one grassroots solution that might drive a little bit of volunteerism or to attract some of the people that were dismayed that maybe the poorer families among us wouldn't have access to the festival with the increase in ticket prices. The month before, when we typically know what the events are, maybe the month before we have people standing outside of Walmart and outside of Ross, like allow families to sign up and be like, hey, if you want to volunteer between 5 and 7, like the busy time when people are getting off work, and stand out there and hand out flyers and be like, hey, this is what's happening this 4th of July. We'll give your whole family wristbands. All you gotta do is 2 hours, you'll get your wristbands, and I'll see you in the show. Something like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We also had just on that same, just so it doesn't get lost, but on that same note, there was a community member that said that she would be willing to put $300 into some type of account that as like an angel donor so that people could draw down from that if people weren't able to afford. So that might be something we want to look into setting up for next year is having people, if they want to donate, or even asking, if you want to buy an extra to go in the angel fund or whatever we want to call it. So that, yeah, the pay forward funds, that way community members who can't afford it can still stop in and ask if there's any addition or any available.
I saw a lot of paying it forward.
Yeah.
At the wristband sales.
Maybe a gate sponsored, sponsor, like business that would sponsor the gate, say $1,000, you know. And their $1,000 goes towards the gate instead of something else. And then that covers the board fund a little bit.
One place that was good to use was the Electron Food Bank. Cause I had about 10 extra wristbands, and so I donated them there. And that was a really good place to be able to.
Oh, that's a really good idea to put some at Fellow Current.
Mhm.
It's a really good idea.
No kind of places.
We did a good start here.
Well, and then another idea for the vendors in the gates, often I'm not able, the idea is to connect with them ahead of time to give them their vendor wristbands so that I can make them attend the meeting that they need to attend. But some of them have changes or extra people. If, I know this year we didn't quite have the gates as fully staffed as we might have been able to, so to be able to hand someone a will call thing for that was maybe a little difficult, but if we can shoot for that next year,
No matter what, if we could just have them check in with people at the wristband booth, because we could leave vendor wristbands up there, and since they all have radios, they could radio you specifically and say, I have this person with this vendor, are they okay to get a vendor bracelet or something, just that way you weren't having to run out to every gate every time to get those out, if they were in the person.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure there's some easy solutions there that we could come up with. to help with that.
yeah.
And if we set the dates for next year, which looks like it's gonna be July 1st, 2nd, 3rd, we can already start working with groups to say, hey, you wanna help out? This is what you can get for doing it.
Otherwise, the vendors, they had a gang, probably, I think most of them had the best year they've ever had.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
Wow.
This is the
It
biggest
was-
thing I heard the whole weekend.
Really?
Yeah, it was
absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah.
They sold, most of them sold out of everything.
I know the
Um,
barbecue place did.
Yeah, he for sure did. He's gonna get another smoker.
Yeah. I had
Um,
4 vendors tell me that Sunday was way better than the hometown day.
yeah, it
Second.
sounds like, Friday and Saturday and Sunday were about the same financially for them, good, solid days, but, basically pretty much doubled what they did in those 2 days on Sunday.
Yeah, it's just amazing,
Um,
amazing, so.
yeah,
that
we do have some work to do on lines again still. And maybe that means we just rework the park and we put them where we need to put them. We often fight with vendors that really want to be where they've always been. So I think that's just us finagling.
Well, and maybe that map that we're putting out to the community is one of those things that's soothing in that situation, because if they're worried about people not finding them, then the map will guide them to them.
Yeah,
Even if we had line volunteers, because I know that I several times went to Pinky's and said, hey guys, can we move the line over here? And wrapped it around Pinky's, and that started really helping with flow because they just blocked the way. We did that several times last year in the main alley and wrapped the line a different direction, and it helped a ton in getting traffic people moving through there.
Yeah.
That was gonna be my
Have a-
questions. Did Pinkies do as well, being located
Yeah,
where
They
they?
had a line.
yes.
I thought they were
Yeah.
in a spot though.
Mhm.
And that will stay. And I think we just rework the park each year to accommodate better. And I think a lot of the vendors often have a person designated to go out and work the line, but a lot of them were sort of understaffed. They didn't
Mhm.
know what to expect this year, so they didn't bring as many people in, you know. But again, just a learning experience and more feedback to make it better for next
I
year.
thought they did well though. That's good.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think the other stuff is just for later, so.
Thank you. Hi,
Hi,
it's your turn.
all right. I think understaffed is probably the word of the day, really. Everybody was understaffed. I think the vendors were understaffed. I think, you know, obviously our gates volunteers, everything was understaffed. My security personnel, they were understaffed. And then because of a lot of the other understaffings, they got shuffled around to try and fill in those gaps in other places, which made my staffing worse. So we just need to really kind of tighten that stuff up as far as making sure that we have, this is the number of people that we need. And if we don't get that or can't get that, then everybody did an awesome job. Like all of you guys jumped in and did stuff where it needed to be done, as much as we could. But if we can't get people that will either volunteer their time or we can't pay people enough to want to sign up to be a fundraising group, then we really need to consider continuing to increase the funding to like contract that out to have people to try and get that staff in there. But ultimately, like even the company that we contracted with, they couldn't provide all the people that we requested.
Yeah.
Like day of, they had people not show up. So that just was kind of a snowball effect.
Speaking of which, they were much better this year than they were last year,
Good.
much
Yeah.
better. And what
Yeah.
was the issue? Could you not get any cadets this year?
We don't have any cadets.
Okay. What a big-
Yeah, we don't have any cadets. Our partner agencies really don't have any cadets. The reserve pools are super low. And then the reserves that people do have are getting hired while they're still in training, as full-time cops, because the staffing among law enforcement just in general is down like a bunch.
So we're gonna have to shoot for Eagle Scouts next year.
It's something,
Eagle Scouts get out
so.
there and do something.
So yeah, that I think it was a big thing that we had to deal with. Just ensuring that, I mean, we need to have people from the finance department that are on site participating in this, just because I got pulled away from doing all my like command and control stuff to deal with the finance piece of things and wristband sales and all of those things, which really probably isn't the best for everybody, really.
Well, but you did an excellent job, and I've never, ever done the cash sales at the event, and it was the most seamless thing ever.
Well, good, I'm
Truly
glad.
was. It truly was. It was so
The
easy.
secret accounting skills. that you have.
Well, I may have a degree in accounting.
Really, really good.
So, let's see, yeah, just, again, I need to make sure that my vendor for security can actually deliver what I need in the future. Signage thing, I think people touch on a little bit, absolutely. Bilingual is gonna be super important, and then just making sure that we do a signage inventory, like what do we have now? What do we actually need everything to say? And where does everything need to go? So we know these are the signs that need to go out. These are all the locations that we have. And so we know we have all the signs or we don't, because we were short signs and some of the signs that we needed didn't get out.
Like 3 hours, we had to.
Yeah.
3 hours with no Spanish signs on one. Well, we really need a social media person, and that person needs to take control of that too. We just gotta get somebody.
Wristband sales, a minimum on site, 3 locations, like that's a minimum. We have to have a minimum of 3 locations selling them like on site.
Mhm.
The Ash Creek one, that just had to happen because of the issues related to people showing up there.
Mhm.
And then my security people were escorting them from there to another location to buy wristbands through the parking. That's just didn't make any sense. So we opened up another one. I think that the museum absolutely should be one of those 3. Because it's a city, it's a city kind of function, and that's gonna draw people into the museum. And it makes it a little bit easier for command and control stuff. So, hey, how you doing? A bike or scooter valet, I think Ramona brought that up at one point. I think that would be super nice. Just because then we don't have to worry about people having the bikes and scooters and stuff like that roaming around inside there, and people would feel good about it.
Something in the hotel or something.
Maybe the hotel or just a group of people that do that at other events and that I know.
What do you mean
that
by
you're
that?
involved in.
Like someone just gives them their bike.
Yeah, so there's, at a lot of large events, like especially like bike events, they'll have a bike valet and it's just like a large caged area where they are all numbered and it's just like a valet for cars. Except they give them a ticket and you
Yeah.
go, they put
Otherwise
the
they
bike
wanna
there.
carry their bike around the park. with them to make sure
Yeah,
it's
because if
safe.
they have a
Yeah.
$5,000 bike, they don't want to just lay it around.
Maybe
somewhere.
the bike and people will volunteer.
Maybe.
Hey, good job for bike.
Yeah.
Dave.
Yeah, we can, yeah.
Just an overall, Ramon, I think you mentioned it, just an overall increase in bilingual representation. The gates, the sales locations with the vendors, all of the things to increase the communication of that. You guys brought up the like kid wristbands, but the idea that was brought to me by Jennifer Blanchard, one of our records people, is having that wristband and having it be able to be written on and say like parent contact information.
Yeah.
Because we had
Yeah.
a bunch of found
The state
kids,
fair.
missing kids, things like that. And if they can write on it, then it makes it easier for us to contact them. Hey, your kid's down here, come get them.
Good idea.
Um,
Clever.
Yeah.
I think, just as you mentioned that I would talk about parking, which I will. Yeah, the parking piece over by the dog park, Ash Creek area. That when we had our CMS traffic and security folks staffing that, we put probably twice as many cars into that location as we have previously, because it's kind of their wheelhouse. They know how to make that work. And having a section that we could carve out for other folks, volunteers, things like that, I think it would be totally reasonable and doable. But just knowing that, having them continue to do that, I think would be a big plus for the event in general, as opposed to volunteers that you can tell them, kind of give them a direction, but that's not their job. They don't really know how to do
And
that.
maybe that's part of how we raise the security budget, security/parking,
Sure.
we get more money. that
Well,
way.
I mean, at this point, I believe we likely made money on parking.
Oh, undoubtedly.
So
Even with things.
even with paying CMS,
Still. we would get
technically,
money.
we really just repurposed some of my people to do it.
But we figured it out.
But we figured it out.
Well, we were gonna pay the volunteers, and we were like, well, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, it made money on the parking side of things, just by having them do that, and the increase in the number of vehicles that were parked in there. Other than that, like, this went really pretty well. We had some difficulties and some staffing shortfalls and stuff, but people just stepped up and did things. Sir did amazing for us on the 4th, like stepping up and making stuff happen and staffing some gates and
With like 3.
things like that. And so it's,
Amazing how
That's
fast
how you
those
know
three
you're
people
good.
are.
yeah, I mean, it's,
Done with 3
we,
people.
we have people that can just get things done. And so overall, I think it was really successful. So everybody did a great job. So. Yeah, really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the help.
I have some things that are kind of all over the place and some more plays off on your guys, but I'll be honest, in my mind, I'm thinking 2 years. Is kind of like my ETA out because I'll hit 30 within the days, so I have some continuity, some cool stuff. Right, playing in my head too, like I need to leave behind and feel good about leaving behind. And one of those things is. We have configured those gates. If Bob and Aaron and I were to sit and say, let's draw a picture of everybody we've done those gates in the last 25 years, we could do that. But it's in our heads, right? Like that concerns me. And still Bob and I argued for 5 minutes. Frank was like, just do it, right? You're right, it's gonna work. But those pieces of how we have had to pivot seamlessly at the last minute is in heads, and it needs to come out of brains. More and get it into something that, a flip chart of contingency planning and
Into
things
Aaron's
to do,
notebook.
right? Yeah, in the Aaron's notebook, where we can all find it.
Yeah.
But so some of those things, like that was one obvious example, but there were other things too, like getting the money and how much money do we need and who can we go to if we need it at the last minute, right? There was a time we used to go to everyone within 3 blocks, 4 blocks of the city downtown core that had ATMs. And just make sure they were aware of how quickly they were gonna run out of money. The makeup here ran out at 8 o'clock. So people are coming who want to buy wristbands, but they have no cash for cash on the sales. They were going as far as Waremark and Ross, and there were no ATMs with money. So I think some community conversations about that to tell our folks that have those, like, you guys missed out on money. We missed out on a lot of wristband sales. A lot of families just couldn't get in because they couldn't find cash.
Yeah, I put
So
that on my
that's
notes for
a-
the 7-star market.
that's a thing to do a little bit more.
Notified. I also told the ATM company that they should maybe think about doing something outside of the gate frame, so that way people can. access
Even
that.
more.
I normally inform my mom that the ATM is empty and she'll come down on Saturday with my neighbor. and reload the
Reload the
ATM.
ATM.
And
I love
was,
this
I
play.
was long gone.
Right.
I never even heard
Right.
about the ATM this year, so.
Something else I had, and this probably be more of an internal conversation, but I just want to mention so it doesn't get forgotten. We still, I think, need to have some better communication and coordination on the first aid booth. And what that means and who's providing what. I provided supplies to the first aid booth from the fire department the first 2 days of the event. And then we ran 6 calls on CERT members. Ourselves, because there wasn't anyone to run them. And part of it was timing of who they were available to have in the fire. It's not a criticism, the fire department is swamped as well. So like we reach out to from the law enforcement side to other agencies to support. Maybe we, rather than relying on our own department, who is gonna have to respond to everything happening in the rest of the community above the park. Maybe we can help them work with some of their partner agencies to be in the park medics so that it's more reliable. They can stay there because I'm not running calls for Polk District. So just an idea to throw to them. As well as I am going to purchase some new vests for those of my members who are EMTs. Just so they have something that says EMT, because a cert is a cert is a cert when the professionals roll on. It's just another person in a yellow vest. Just to help them know that they're working with someone who does have a license and more training. Just for better communication on the ground. The parade, so big gaps this year, probably the biggest gap I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But that's not unusual to have big gaps, but I think what would help us down there, because I'm always there, is a couple of things. We need some megaphones. I mean, I'm loud and I can be loud for a long time, but the older I get, the less I want to do that more. So a couple of megaphones. Also, I think to echo what you said a bit earlier, we need some street entertainment that we can have at the ready, that when we have these big gaps in the parade, we can then walk those 2 blocks and keep people entertained, as well as making it clear, like, we're just running up and down yelling, it's not over yet, it's not over yet, it's not over yet, right? Until someone comes through and, until, I just kept telling them, if you still see me here, there's still parade coming. If you see me walk away, it's over, right? Like, we're patrolling that two blocks. But if we had entertainment, that would kind of help hold them in place and fill that gap.
On Main Street.
It was
It's what we.
So I went to the Rotary Parade wrap up meeting after action, whatever you want to call it, and we talked about that. So we talked about that, and I think us providing some street performance stuff downtown, obviously, I think would be great. People would love it, because as much as the Rotary took that criticism and recognized it, and they're going to try and make some efforts to do a better job of having people that can work like parade marshals to close those gaps throughout the parade if possible, and or having people downtown to do the same things that you're doing, going down and telling people, hey, the parade is still coming,
Yep.
or
Yeah,
things
the
like
parade
that.
at one
They,
point, I was at C Street and you couldn't even see the parade.
Yeah.
Wait, it wasn't the 2 blocks.
It was about a half.
no, it was I think it was
I
like,
couldn't see it.
I think it was 8 blocks.
It was more than that.
Yeah.
So,
Beyond the light.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was
so we-
30 minutes.
I talked to them about that, and they're just, I think ultimately they're short staffed too, and
Right.
their focus is at the front of the parade and trying to get people lined up.
No,
And then I
99
think
is
that
supposed
part of
to
it,
No,
the problem.
this year it was the horse crew.
Yep.
it had to do with the horses, and it had to do with how they line people up, having somebody at the staging area of the parade and knowing, hey, let's put all the people that are walking in the
Yeah.
front, because
They said the pace.
everybody can set the pace walking, and just is
That's
what it is. So,
Cause we always have to get 50 kids on a float and then
Yeah.
catch up to the cars in front of
Right.
us,
Yeah.
because the majority of our float does walk.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's usually around the S curves that I'm like, all right, everybody's jumping on, we're
Yeah.
gonna catch up.
Yep.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and
Walkers first,
And
then
just
sets
doing
the
that,
pace.
and they recognize that, and there were people that were doing it this year that they tried the best they could, and they had never been in charge before. So, there's a lot of different ways that they can try and help mitigate that for the future, but just
Even
knowing that ahead of time.
Yeah.
Information out to the people that are only driving to
Yeah.
be
Yeah,
cognitive.
and they I think they're really pushing to have a rotary float at the very end, so people know. And
Yeah,
as it goes, you said continuity, as you go through the years, everyone knows that the last float is the Rotary, thank you for coming float.
Yeah.
You know, it's knowing those things and trying to make that work
Yeah.
is I think. hopefully-
I thought the
Yeah.
mayors were the end of the parade.
No, there's the horse cleanup.
Okay.
I think historically it's the fish, right? The Lucky Wing watershed usually.
Historically, it's the Public Works
It's really
Department.
hard.
Historically, it's the Public Works Department.
Yeah, historically. it is
Taking up the
public
barricades.
works. Fish last a couple of years, my first 4th of July year, so pre-COVID, I guess. Yeah. And the Lucky Green Watershed Council had picked the trash pickup, so we had the trash.
Yeah.
vehicle in front, and we're helping everybody move along. Okay, this is it, you know, we're the last float and we're
Yeah.
taking your garbage and
Yeah.
playing music and we're the big fish.
Yeah, and somebody brought up that too, to be towards
They
the
weren't
end,
able-
but they weren't even in the parade this
They
year.
didn't have enough volunteers.
So, and that's the thing, it's. You can want to do all those things, but if you don't have the people, then it's you're just gonna have to.
My 2 cents on the Rotary float would be those Rotarians can be helping with the parade route instead of creating and running on the float.
Yes.
Because we don't have enough Rotarians to be on the parade route. Why are they gonna try to pull a float?
The biggest part of it is
Just put the horses at the end, because they need to be the most
yeah.
time consuming, so that they can be as, you know.
And I
on the task
Yeah.
by everyone who's leading, so.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Publish
want everybody to continue.
Couple more quick things. Echo the Spanish signs and getting them up. I was down shuffling through the pile frantically 4 or 5 times trying to find the right signs to get up top. And even if we just sorted them by what the signs say somewhere along the fence, so I could just spot them. and grab
Just
the
so everyone
ones,
knows,
but
on
it
the
was like
fifth, me
crazy.
and Aaron threw away
It's
like
insane.
80% of the signs.
Yeah.
And we're planning to recreate, so we can all be in conversations about those recreations.
The only other thing I have at feedback, and it's not really a positive or negative, it's just awareness, and I don't know what to do with it, right? And it may be something that we're like, well, it happens, because sometimes there are those things, but it's the first time I've experienced happening, so again, 27, 28 years, right? About 8:30, I started seeing something we haven't seen on the 4th, and that was people leaving in fairly significant numbers up on Main Street, and so even my daughter was like, what's going on, right? So we started just randomly asking people, like, you know, why did you not like fireworks? Do you have something against fireworks? Like, you know, was your favorite vendor out of food? Like trying to engage in a friendly way, and got a consistent answer of, there are too many people down there and I feel unsafe. There was a significant number of people. If I had to draw a number, I know that we spoke to at least 12 people. There were probably maybe 100 people, right? Which is, by our numbers of what we have, it's significant. But the fact that there were at least 100 people who were saying like, I don't feel safe down here and I'm gonna leave. I think that we need to hear that, and we need to keep it in our minds, and whether it's something we can solve or not, maybe it's the sign of the times. There just been a shooting the day before, it's weighing on people's minds. But you know, we had a citizen point out that we were not searching the chair bags, which is the one place you could hide a long gun. We're not making people open, like, do we have to make rules, their chairs, camping bags, like,
I think
some
we
events
talked
are
about
going to clear
yeah.
bags, right? But so just, I think we need to we are lucky to live in Monmouth Independence, and I think we get a little complacent over time that this is where we live, and it's never gonna happen here, but they didn't think it would happen in the mall of Idaho or Utah either. So I think we just have to,
And
I
we
don't think
did,
there's a
we did
solution
address
to it. I
that
think we just need to keep it in mind and
the security
forefront it.
folks.
Mhm.
I wonder how much of it too is like post-COVID anxiety.
Yeah, yeah.
First.
I really think it was more active shooters. I mean, it was just a crowd and it didn't help that, I forget which day it was, the 2nd or the 4th. We had a fairly large, I don't want to say gangs, so I don't want to make assumptions,
Youth
but
group?
I thank you, a group of youth,
Yeah.
2 groups of youth who had a major conflict up top of the park that filled that entire area around the balcony across the front for a while. And that perception of that was when we started seeing people leave. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
it was.
It was on the floor.
It was unfortunate.
Yeah, and it was real, and I mean,
Yeah, felt it too.
yeah, I had officers up there that had already seen it and knew something was about to happen and were there when stuff started to pop
Yeah.
off, so.
The only other thing I have is, and again, just it's kind of go, sorry, I'm really random because I was feeling those things reminding me. I think we should plan a little bit more deliberately, or if we do have a medical issue that we have to hold in place for a significant amount of time, where we're gonna do that. Because I had a medic call right towards the end of the fireworks, and it was close to 45 minutes to an hour. Do you remember? I called you twice, like, do we
Yeah.
have an ETA on that minute? Because we're sitting. at
Yeah, I
the
think
top
it
of the
was,
park.
I think it was close to 40.
And it's just the traffic issue. It's not a lack of response, but they can't get here any faster. Like, there's too many cars in the way. So I think we should think about those high volumes. If she had been more urgent than she needed. How could we're not gonna move, I guess my point is, we're not gonna move her, even if we could gurney or carry her down to where the search station or first aid station. We're not gonna do that. It's against the flow of tide. What is our alternative up top? That we could make a plan ahead of time to move her to the museum, someplace we can get keys to, right? A city-owned
Is
property.
there a reason why
something
you
to
don't have an
do.
ambulance on standby during the entire event? Is it? a cost
It's
thing,
lack
or-
of resources.
They don't have.
And,
enough people
and
to
they
staff.
have to be able to respond all out here,
Yeah,
right? You can't
staff.
lock a medic down
Right.
behind all those people and not be able to get that.
The only other thing that we had talked about was possibly contracting with like Falk
And I
and
think
just
that would be a good
paying-
idea,
and just paying
than
to
to sit
have-
down there.
EMTs, paramedics on site with an ambulance.
Yep.
That we could park in the dog park
Yep.
or somewhere like that, and they could leave if they.
I think it's a brilliant idea.
I know
Like,
fire
I
is
would-
addressing this. as
I would
well. They have a
support
new
that
fire person,
100%.
this was their first year.
Yeah,
And he
Yeah.
already told me.
yeah, he was like, no. Yeah, so those are my highlights. Nothing really major, like, we do it every year. We do it what we have and we make it work. I've already started talking to other CERT programs up and down the valley. And saying, okay, we need to do a better job of learning how we support each other. So we're generating an annual list of events, so. If I can send people to help theirs earlier in the year, that they can send people to help ours next year, so. Same thing though, volunteer numbers have dwindled considerably because of the living bus programs are still trying to build the numbers back up, so. We'll do what we can do.
Thank you. Thank you for all your help.
Yeah.
And your daughter.
Yeah, she's not here and she won't be there. She was like, don't do that. Next year.
For me, most of my concerns were hit. I mean, we're all on the same page, so, my big thing was signage. I felt horrible about the fact I couldn't get enough signs out, or I didn't have someone to be putting these signs out for me, and finally Sean showed up, and I'm like, Sean, signs, please put signs out for me. I don't have the crew to do it, so.
One of my notes on my list is stop having Aaron do so much. Because there are very important
Yeah.
key things that you've got to have focus on, and you being out on a boat for 4 hours collecting
I know,
rubber ducks
right?
is not one of them.
Yeah,
So.
it's fun. I enjoy doing it, but I
Yeah.
could be well used somewhere else at that point. So,
Mhm.
but that's where I have my two guys that help me a lot, and
Yeah.
they're phenomenal.
I missed that. How did what did we have, driver boats or who we had?
No,
It was
crew.
one, like
The
one rowing crew.
Yeah.
The crew boat.
Yeah, and they did good. They did good. Yeah.
I think they know next year that they need many more boats and
They
many more
are,
hands, and they plan to.
They are enthusiastic about
Yeah.
coming back next year.
Yeah.
Awesome. I totally missed it.
They're gonna have a bunch
I
of
sent
single
it.
skulls out there.
I don't have the names. off the top of my head.
But the ducks came extremely fast this year.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a little bit of a challenge too.
Yeah.
I mean, I had 15, 20 ducks in a row that I'm picking.
All your ducks
Which
were-
one? Yeah, really, right? I'm thinking, okay, which one's the first place?
Do you have like a big
I
fish
had
in
to
that?
really-
Like, are you getting?
Yeah, I really had to focus in on them, and then somebody had said maybe I missed one on the one side or something along those lines. But it was, I mean, they were all there at the same time.
Was that my duck?
So, yeah, it's your duck, yeah, I can guarantee you. It was my duck, that's why I let it go by. Yeah. It was a very good book.
We need a volunteer in a kayak with a camera.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but other than that, I think this year was a great year. I'm very busy during the event, but I was very comfortable being that busy during the event because I knew things were going well, so
And the weather was nice.
the weather was
The weather
great.
was perfect.
Yeah. I didn't realize that rain on the day.
Can I add, sorry to interrupt, but can I add one more thing about the duck drop?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So we put the signs on either end of the bridge event ahead, and I think that helped people to be aware as they were coming up on. But I think we need to have a person in a gator at each end because we had people trying to go around the stop cars. And so if we had that and then enough people to dump all of the ducks,
Because you need 7 people to dump all the barrels.
all
at
the
same time.
barrels.
And
And
then
so
we
we
also
need-
had one person trying to get both sides of traffic to stop, which was what was creating the issue.
Yeah, so I think if we factor in, we need nine people to pull that off.
I'm gonna say 10, because you need
10.
one looking to make sure a
Yep.
boat isn't coming underneath. it.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude. If we almost jumped them into a boat. that would-
Yeah. Almost wondered if they took one with them.
10 people.
As long as
with
they
the
take
dump truck.
mine and then drop it.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone yelled at the Bay were like, oh,
Mhm.
cool, yeah, we're dumping them, yeah. Okay, thank you. I just have a few things that weren't mentioned, that I'll just add to the notes. We need a dead stop time for vendors on the applications, because that was
Yep.
hard to go around and tell everyone to
Yep.
stop selling when it was 11, almost 30 at night. And we needed to get everyone out of the park. The B Street gate needs to move back to the Grove. There's just, I think it was just because you weren't up there to manage where the gates were being placed, but that one specifically just, it didn't need to be at the crosswalk. Headlamps for the garbage crew
Yes, it's a good one.
and for the nighttime staff that's helping with the breakdown. How did everyone feel about the, oh, what was that?
More porta potties on the fourth.
Yeah.
And get them to bring more in on the fourth or
Yes.
something.
And more, we need to have toilet paper on site at the staff location, because even though they were coming around daily to clean and to replenish, we were still running out at nighttime, and I had to run to like random businesses in downtown and say, hey, can I borrow 4 rolls of toilet paper from you until we get them, because the ones that we have on site at the bathroom up there are the industrial ones that don't fit into the small toilet paper rolls, so.
Also, the porta potty, the porta potties at the top, outside the public restrooms, outside the fence. That serviceman got there, he finished, like, we had to make people move, who had sit set up to watch the parade. We had to make, he got there at the cusp, man, we had to make people move, and then so he's servicing the porta pots right there, with everyone standing there glaring at him because they would put their seats back down. And we were tracking the first things coming around the corner when he was just pulling up.
So better
It was
communication
that
with what,
close.
when they need to and what they
Yeah,
need to.
because
service
that was
first.
almost unfortunate.
That's a wonderful smell. to Watch that parade next.
How did everyone like the inflatables edition this year compared to the?
I heard lots of
I didn't
good
hear
stuff.
anything.
Lots of good stuff.
Pretty good compliments on that.
Mhm.
I got.
Dave,
I'll hold my.
it felt safe.
Yeah. Physically
That's
safe.
good to hear.
The kids that were working it looked good, were professional, clean, safe.
I got a lot of feedback.
Should we make any money?
We made $1,800.
So we covered
not-
our,
Fair, I don't think we,
Close, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
are up, okay. I got a lot of feedback on it. Now I know what my draw is, and we could have actually utilized the police department's smaller generator and done exactly what I did and vet it from right there instead of the large amount of cables going across the road, so maybe in the future we can utilize that a little bit more often, so.
Are we gonna steer away from ever having a carnival? Somebody asked me that. I said, I have no idea.
so
It's not
many
availability.
quit after COVID that there's very few out there,
Rainier.
as of right now. Yeah, there's only,
And the ones that are out there already have the routine.
and we talked to Rainier before, I actually helped Janice a few years ago, try to bring in Rainier to swap out Amy's company. And we're too small of potatoes for them. They like huge locations, huge parking lots, and really the space that we have for a carnival is quite small. So that's
Yeah.
the reason.
If we were to do a carnival, it'd have to be in the dog.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
eliminates that. parking lot.
Yeah, I heard from several parents that they felt more comfortable with their, leaving their kids down at the inflatables than they would at a carnival.
So then one of the only other things that I have for that is just to add more picnic tables in that front area, because a lot of families like to bring their food over and just let their kids kind of
Yeah.
go play. So
Mm.
having seating in that full front
Some
area.
shade in the middle would
Yeah.
have been nice too. I don't,
Yes.
because we're getting hot in it more.
It's like a tent.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some, yeah, some shade.
Yeah, the-
For security, I was thinking maybe, and I don't know how this would be done, because being up on the street, it's kind of hard to get people. We'd have to have our own like fencing or our own line set, but having bags, no bags lines, especially when it gets to that late time.
Yeah,
frame.
yeah, we used to have signage for that. I was
Yeah.
yelling at people for that,
Yeah.
but once I walked away.
Exact change, bags only, no bags.
No bags, exact
Yeah, we
change,
just
right?
blow through.
Yeah, and that's a suspected gate
Yeah.
organization and making sure that we know what
almost
we
like
want the
its
gates. to
own
look like.
coordinator.
It really is, it really
We
is.
used to have a gate coordinator
Well,
back in the 90s. Yeah,
And then the last thing was just more of a promotion thing, collecting all the Duck Derby email and making that more of a mailing list for next year. And obviously feeding them more information about the events. They like the Duck Derbies and they probably like the event and we'll be back. So
Maybe some promotions in the school district too for that. So kids know when they go home, hey, mom, there's gonna be a duck thing.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Good,
We,
yeah.
we sold
we
What,
sold out of
hundred
ducks.
and 79 of 180
Really?
ducks.
Good.
So, I mean, we really did good.
We have one.
Oh, we had 170.
Yeah.
I thought we had 180.
You,
We sold
you lost one.
Apparently, in the back of the boat. Yeah.
Probably the-
Yeah.
All right, does anyone, Leanne, did you have anything that you wanted to add? Or Kenna, or anyone online?
Yeah, Courtney, I'll add something. I wasn't able to join the meeting for this part, but I understand that Shannon mentioned vendors and Wi-Fi. The current Wi-Fi system that we have in the park, it can handle probably a few hundred people, but once you start to get to the size of a stadium, then it pretty much just chokes and can't handle anything no matter what. I've been in contact with the vendor that I worked with to set up that original system and talk to them about a possible trade, like say a sponsorship or a shout out or a banner or something. And they would essentially bring in a temporary setup to increase the capacity of the Wi-Fi there. Otherwise, it would be a project that would cost us tens and tens of thousands of dollars, but they seem very willing to do that and they love working with independents. So hopefully next year we'll have a little more solid Wi-Fi for the vendors. And if there's any other IT stuff I missed, I'm happy to weigh in.
Thank you for all your hard work at the talent show.
Yes.
Yeah,
The
you
talent
bet.
show that text in, that worked really well.
Yeah, I was super happy with that. That seemed like it went really, really well.
And this is Leanne. Woo woo. Hi, sorry, I wish I could be there. I'm just, Anyway, you know this dumb COVID business. I'm not sick, but I was with someone who now is sick. So there you go. One of the things I was thinking about when you were talking about the inflatables, might we be able to add not rides, but maybe some carnival games?
Yeah, they actually had
About-
carnival games and that was a part of the original request was for them to provide. They actually have inflatable carnival games, but they felt that with the amount of people coming, it's gonna be that their staff's time was better spent actually on the inflatables. Since they need a staff member at every inflatable. I mean, they too were understaffed and they went to the last minute. They found a basketball team that was willing to come and work for them.
Yeah,
So
the
I think
kids were
that's,
great. They were really personable, great kids.
yeah. And I think that's something to add for next year. Now that they also have 1 year under their belt, it's always easier to kind of assess and then figure out for next year what works best. So.
But
that's
that
definitely
kind of
something-
gives you, maybe some carnival games would kind of give you something for the older kids, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
So that was a thought. And then we're just going to have to work out a bit better of a system. I think it was probably better this year than it has been from what I've heard, but the people, the different places that had the wristbands, some didn't know they were supposed to save their envelopes, so we knew how many wristbands they had, et cetera, et cetera. So it wasn't as easy to keep track as we thought it was going to be by handing them an envelope and then handing them another envelope and then another, because they were throwing away what they had sold. So we didn't know how many they had to start with. So
I think that's probably just a staff thing where they,
Yeah.
you know, the management isn't relaying to all the staff.
exactly.
I think
Yeah,
it might make sense to do maybe just public buildings or city-owned buildings next year, but
Yeah.
Right, and moving to online sales will help eliminate some of that too,
Yeah.
because I did run into that issue with a couple of folks as well, but.
Yeah. And you know, some places I had the time to sit down and sort out the money and the tickets and other places it was just like, sorry, like the hotel, hey, we're busy. Here's our money, you know. And
We have to factor
so,
in.
you know, their
we-
businesses, they've got stuff to do, you know, and I can understand that. So, but anyway, I think, and I was one of the ones who felt like raising things to $5 was going to be really horrible. But I heard very few complaints, quite frankly, and nobody didn't go that I know of because it was $5. So, I think that went really well.
Another thing with the reconciling and the wristbands and everything, I felt like I took up like the whole second floor staff's day when we did this. I mean,
Yes,
and Nikki and Myra and Karen and, you know, everybody else counting and checking stuff off and everything. And if we moved to online sales, we'll be able to eliminate some of that.
Yeah.
Some of that responsibility.
but
While you're on there, Leanne, does anyone have wristbands that we don't have? Because we're still short.
no, I went the day after and I collected everything that, I mean, I collected everything that they had at all of the locations that I am aware of. So
Okay.
unless they stuck them somewhere and whoever gave me the wristbands didn't know there were some stuck in a safe or stuck somewhere else. The only thing I can think is to maybe, and maybe you've already done this, I don't know, contact the places that were selling for us and just make sure they don't have any stuck somewhere.
No, we haven't done that.
Okay.
I thought you made a final round, so I was.
Well,
told
I
that was
did,
taken
I
care
did,
of.
but I was unaware that we were short.
I
Yeah.
got you. Okay.
And
Oh, I
the
could do
theater-
that
the
again?
theater's worth checking, not long, I think, for sure.
If anyone had any extra at this point, they probably just went away. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, I would think if they had some extra at this point, they would have called us and let us know. But I don't know.
Yeah, he says no, we don't have.
Oh, okay. Nothing's in the trailer.
I already grabbed all that. Friday.
Oh, where'd you go?
Yeah, no, they accepted it.
They accept.
They said, oh, no, we got it.
Yeah.
Just-
It's really just.
All right,
Thanks,
well,
Anna.
I think that's everything. Thank you, everyone. If anyone thinks of anything after this meeting, feel free to email myself or Karen to get it into the notes for information for next year. And then other than that, do we want to talk about what dates we want to do for next year?
I'm already getting requests, so people are.
I know people have been asking, and obviously next year, I believe it falls on a Wednesday.
It does, so it would be the first, second, third would be that party.
And for it?
No.
Second, third, and fourth.
Second, third, and fourth.
Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, I would say second, third, and fourth.
Second, third,
Second, third, and fourth.
Second, third, and fourth.
Or just,
Fireworks on
or
the-
just,
Or just the
the-
third and
or just the
fourth.
third and fourth.
Fireworks on the second, and fourth.
Sunday and Tuesday?
Nope, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Oh,
No, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah, we've always done weekday, middle of the week shows. It works out just fine. There's never been really an issue with it. It does not have to be done on a weekend. It's a little slower, but it does work.
So we're
out.
gonna
I
do
would
Sunday, Monday,
recommend
Tuesday?
ending on the fourth. The day
Yeah.
after the fourth is gonna be a no day.
The day after the fourth is not.
So,
No.
second,
Okay,
third,
so
No, it ends on the,
So basically, it's either Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Tuesday. What would
Correct.
the commission like to do? Can I get a hand raised if you want Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 3-day event?
Is there a reason you don't
Okay.
wanna do 1 through 4?
Because
Yes.
that's
Yes.
all-
it's too many days.
Guys, think about what you were talking about, the kids games and stuff. If we do the 3-day, and we do fireworks on the second, fireworks on the fourth, we have the midday gap for those other things that we want to do on a non-fireworks day. So that's why I thought 3 days.
I think from a vendor standpoint, I would say the majority would lean toward doing the 3 days.
Yes.
I don't think the down days is really a down day. According to what we had this year, they made the same
Takes Monday.
on Saturday and Sunday.
So we're gonna do the second, third, and fourth.
Well, I'm waiting to see a vote. So those who just want the 3rd and 4th, can I get a hand raise? All right, Justin, let the record show Justin is the only one with his hand raised. Here, you can't vote for both. It's slated to be the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th is what next year's event will be.
With fireworks on the second.
With fireworks on the
Fireworks on the
second
second.
and the fourth.
Perfect. I already have my bid.
I was gonna say, it's the same days, that makes it easy.
And then I will just say that it was my thought, especially with talking with some of the commission members, that there would be a hiatus on planning, at least meeting as a group until January after the holidays. And I wanted to see what everyone's opinion was on that, since it sounds like it kind of is a.
That kind of panic.
No, but I think based on what everybody said here, we need to back it up.
Well, I think that we could probably have a meeting specifically about the wristbands or specifically about the gates, but in terms of meeting as an entire group, consistently with planning, when would everyone like to meet? To start re-meeting, I guess. For next year.
I think as long as we're doing the breakout meetings for those things that are a little more critical prior,
Right.
Sponsors, gates.
it
Yes,
doesn't, we don't need to have an entire meeting with everyone.
right.
The
that's what I
breakout meetings work really well.
Does it affect the rules of order for minute taking and voting on anything at those meetings, or will they be discussion only and not for the record?
I'll say what?
They won't be.
The pre-meetings. the
They're not
voluntary
official
meetings.
meetings. No.
Breakout. I think you need to get your vendor agreement through legal this year too. And then you- so,
Okay.
Yeah.
There were
Which-
people over at Territory.
Makes
we'll
sense.
wanna get
Yes,
that.
I know. We need to wrap up. All right, so is that it? Did we get an answer? Is everyone okay starting the commission meetings in January? Okay, then we will do that.
Providing
Right.
providing you're still gonna be there for me.
I guess we'll see. And after party at Territory.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.